Hi! If you Google or search YouTube for string clamp recovery, you won't find anything related to what I'll be revealing in this video. The main reason why you won't find any information on recovery of string clamps on a stringing machine, it's because it's a term that I started using, so I guess I made it up. Now before I can explain recovery of string clamps, you'll need to understand the occurrence of drawback. Check out episode 1 titled String Clamp Drawback Discussion. Alright, so now that you know what string clamp drawback is, string clamp recovery occurs after drawback as tension is applied to the subsequent string. If you look carefully at the string clamp as it happens, you'll see how the clamp moves as the string's tension pulls it towards the frame. Now let's take a look at the chart I shared in episode 1 and I'll reveal recovery. Here's a chart from episode 1, and you'll notice that I added another column, recovery, here. Just a quick review on drawback. What I did is I measured the amount, the distance that the clamp moved after clamping on the string, releasing the tension from the tension head, and then measuring how much that clamp moved away from the frame. So I'm happy to report that the Prince NEOS 1000 and the Babolat Evolution Tour recovered 100% of what was drawn back on the clamp. So that means the clamp moved back to its original position. So I asked my colleagues to do the same, and here's the recovery revealed. The Babolat Racquet Station, 100%. We have the Yonex ES5 ProTech at 100%. The Prince P7000, that was my old machine, and I took some measurements, and it was 100%. The Technifiber Ergo Pro at 100%. And I have the Wilson Biardo here, but I have no measurements on this one. So it was good to see that all of these machines had some drawback, but it did recover whatever it was drawn back on the clamp. But what happens when full recovery doesn't occur after drawback? Well, I'll share 2 experiences I had with this issue. My first experience with drawback and recovery was when I had my Babolat Star 4 machine, and I did have it for 20 years, but towards the end of the 20 years, I noticed that the drawback was 3 millimeters on the mains and 2 millimeters on the crosses. But the recovery is what was important, was that it never fully recovered the full amount. So it always left a slight gap between the string clamp and the grommet. I did try to adjust the base clamps the best that I could so that the clamps could still slide freely and reducing as much drawback as possible, but it still resulted with these numbers here. So when I did replace it with my P7000, the drawback was a lot less here, but the recovery was 100%, so that was good to see. But what I was noticing too is because I was tracking all of my string jobs at that time with a Babolat RDC, that my string bed deflection readings were coming out 4 units higher than the Babolat Star 4. So although the units are not actual pounds, after some experimentation, I did end up adjusting the reference tension on all of my string jobs that was strung previously on the Star 4, 4 pounds lower now, so that I could match the string bed deflection. And today I use the ERT 300 to do the same, but you can see that having a tool like the Babolat RDC or ERT 300 is a valuable way to measure this, but also to make sure that you're getting consistent results on your string jobs. My second experience with drawback and recovery happened when I acquired 2 old Ignis 800 Hawk lockup machines, and I used the parts to make one working machine to sell to a customer. After calibrating the tension head, I strung a racket, and then I took a string bed deflection reading right after stringing. Next, I calibrated my Prince NEOS 1000. I strung the same racket with the same strings and same tension. Then I took a string bed deflection reading after I strung that racket, and here are the results. Here we have the Ignis 800 Hawk lockout machine. And when I did assemble the machine, I did my best to adjust the string clamp bases the best that I could to allow free movement of the string clamps while still reducing drawback. And there's always going to be the balance between those two. But the drawback on those clamps were 5 millimeters. And when I measured the recovery on it, it was 2 millimeters. So it left a 3 millimeter gap between the string clamp and the grommet. The string bed deflection, it was 6 units lower than the Prince Niels 1000 string bed deflection. So what I did to remedy that, in this case, I recalibrated the tension head so that it would read 4 pounds higher on the calibration scale compared to that of the reference tension on the machine. But it was still coming out 2 units lower. And so what I did again is I recalibrated the tension head to read 6 pounds tighter on the calibration scale, and then the string bed deflection was spot on. At the time that I experienced this drawback in recovery on the Ignis 800 Hawk machine, I mentioned that and reached out to JC Carpentier of Tennis Machines Incorporated, and here's what he had to say. I'm not sure exactly how tension you are actually losing, but in my opinion, you would have to be losing some. I think the biggest question is how much you're picking up on the next pull. I know it isn't much, but it has to be some, and since we never really tried testing it, I can't say for sure how much. If for you, recalibrating 6 pounds higher gets you where you want to be, then I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that solution. That was nice to hear. Then recently, when I experienced drawback in recovery on my Babolat Evolution Tour, when I reached out to John Lyons, the Babolat project manager of professional devices, here's what he had to say. I would not give up the super effortless movement to get a little less drawback. Is the string job consistent over and over? If the answer is yes, you are where you want to be. The bottom line is that your answer about drawback and recovery is accurate, and you point out the key issue. So I want to thank JC and John for providing their expert input on this issue of drawback and recovery. I would also like to thank my colleagues who assisted me in creating these 2 videos. Albert Lee, Matthew, Roger Gough, Sam Chan, and Tim Strawn. In summary, paying attention to your string and machine's string clamps, drawback, and recovery is vital if you want to produce accurate tension and spot-on string jobs. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play. Here's a quick demonstration on how I use the ERT 300 to match dynamic tension of 2 rackets that are different head sizes. So I have 2 rackets for the same client, and this one I strung a few hours ago, but it's a 100 square inch 16 by 18 string pattern and the reference tension at 56. Now this second racket I just strung, it's a 98 head size with a 16-19 string pattern. Both have the same strings. So I decided to go at 52 on the reference tension because of the fact that it has a smaller head and slightly denser string pattern. The goal is to get 38 on both of them. So you can see right here, came out right at 38. So the dynamic tension of the strings is what the player is going to feel. So that's always important that you can match that. And I also tested it on my Babolat RDC for the string bed deflection, and they both came out at the same number also. Now if you'd like to purchase one of these, I do have an affiliate link, so if you use it, you get 10% off the regular price. So just go to ert300.com and use the code AMStringing. Mahalo for your support, and let your strings play.